Hey, this is Noah Garcia with the Daily 49er, and today we're doing an episode specific to OUTober, where we're going to address a pop culture related topic which pertains to the LGBTQIA plus community. And today we are going to be talking about the phenomenal young adult romance Heartstopper. Let's get to it.
Happy New Year to a boy.
Well, if it isn't Charlie Spring, Happy New Year. You're over there. Mr. Nicholas Nelson.
Hi.
It's literally just another silly crush.
It's not a crush. Hi.
Come on, dream
I
guy.
don't know, just someone I can have a laugh with.
He's the straightest person I have ever seen.
Thank you.
Heartstopper began as a young adult LGBTQIA plus graphic novel and webcomic series written and illustrated by British author Alice Oseman. The original comic run began in 2016 on Tumblr and Tapas, and eventually the author themselves started a Kickstarter to make a print run that did so well that eventually the series was picked up and is now Netflix television series, which has already been approved for a second and third season. The story itself is about the lives of Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring, the latter of which is an out young gay male teen in high school, and the first it's another teenage kid who has to really discover his own sexuality and his place in the world, which you often see of many high school stories, but this one that pertains to young queer children is very interesting in the sense that there's very much a presence of hope and optimism within it. The series itself often does take the dramatic. It does take that high school drama staple of the young adult genre. Whereas you're young, you're having all these relationships, all these feelings that you're just figuring it out. And the fact that you're in this school with a bunch of other kids that are going through very similar experiences, it's just a powder keg for drama. And that is something that Heartstopper has plenty of. But at the end of the day, there's always that hopeful twist. Whatever issues that these guys face, there's always some sort of resolution that tells you whatever drama you're going through, there is a chance to overcome it. First of all, if you have seen the Netflix adaptation, I would say 100% you should go back and pick up the graphic novels. They're very easy to read and they have great reread value. The art is very simple but direct. It's very cute, cartoony, and I would say that the story itself is very well paced. There are several novels to get through. Right now, there are only 4 out with several supplementary books on the side, but of the 4, the story is very well done. Now let's get into the story. But if you haven't read it, no spoilers, so don't worry about it. You have these 2 characters, one Charlie Spring, who's fully out, who has been through hell and back with bullying, has dealt with the trials and tribulations of being a young gay male in high school, especially an all-boys school over in England. And then we have Nick Nelson, sort of the popular, more sociable jock rugby player who meets Charlie, and Nick and Charlie very much, there's almost this strange spark that builds over time into a fire of realization for Nick, as Nick spending time with Charlie kind of realizes, oh, wow, I like this person not only as a friend, but there are these new feelings that are coming into me that I have no idea how to deal with them. And I think that's an interesting commentary on queer identity and how it comes to those individuals who are part of the community in different ways. Because some people, they know the moment that they're 3 or 4 or in elementary school, they know something's different. They know that their attraction is different than what is considered norm. And it's something that hits them from early on. But for people like Nick Nelson, who experience these feelings later in high school or in college or perhaps even adulthood, these feelings often catch people off guard. There's something that you're not really prepared with because you haven't spent so much of your youth dealing and trying to understand them. So it's interesting to see the perspective of one person who's had these queer feelings and identity and kind of have come to terms with it and understand it, and another person who, within the throes of the transfer from adolescence to young adult, has to be hit with these feelings and have to kind of digest them and try to understand who they are as a person. And I think that's a really interesting story to tell. And as for the Netflix adaptation, I am also a big fan of it. However, if there's one issue I do have with it is that it doesn't have the same pacing as the graphic novels. It almost feels like they didn't know if they were going to get a second season, so a lot of the build up with their relationship feels like it's being sped up incredibly fast. It just feels like they condense a lot of what happens in Charlie's and Nick's relationship into the Netflix season 1 series. So that feels a bit odd to me. But aside from that, I would say the Netflix adaptation is pretty successful. And if there's one thing it's done very well, it's that it's helping to bring LGBTQIA plus stories up to the forefront and in a very positive manner. More often than not, when we see in movies or Netflix dramas, and we see these queer relationships, whether they pertain to non-binary folks, male, women, everything outside and in between the binary, we often see these stories of tragedy. This show is meant to be light and fluffy. It's meant to be almost like eye candy where you can chew it and love it. And queer people need more light and fluffy representation. It's not all just trauma. The first season of Heartstopper is out on Netflix now. All the graphic novels are able to be picked up wherever they're sold, and you can read it for free on Tapas, Tumblr, and webcomics. This has been Noah Garcia with the Daily 49er and a special episode of OUTtober. Catch you later.